We're live.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 8th meeting of Council. Before we get into the regular Council agenda, we do have the Fiddleville Nonprofit Housing Corporation Board meeting for this quarter. So we'll call that meeting to order first. We do have quorum. Are there any conflict of interest declarations from any board member? Okay. Moving on then to the minutes from the October 5th, 2020 board meeting. Can I get a mover and seconder to approve those minutes as circulated? Board member Bonato, seconded by board member Buffett. Any discussion on those minutes or any questions? Okay. All in favor? Carried. All right. So on to the financial report. Trevor?
Okay. My colleague Donna Gordon is online. She's doing all the minutes and stuff for me. So if you turn to page 9, our balance sheet, I'll go through it very quickly. For the new board members, it's been, I guess, 2.5 years, but it seems been an interesting 2 years. But we do have lots of cash. We have $166,000 in cash. Operationally, we do very well. The next section, the reserve fund, that has increased in the last year, but that's for capital projects. We are very tight there. So that is money we get funding from the county every year, and it's for capital repairs. We are at $38,000. We were down to about $16,000 at one point. So in the last year, we haven't increased that. We do have operationally $166,000 in the bank account. Tenants accounts receivable. Donna provided an update on our financial arrears. We were at $8,900 when we did our report. We're down to $6,000 now. And one of the clients who owes about $3,000 is actually paying us, apparently cashing in an RSP or a GIC to pay us. So we're doing fine. The COVID has affected rent collection a little bit, but not dramatically. I think it's so important to know. Certainly vacancies, we've had fewer vacancies during COVID. Just people are unwilling to move, or, you know, it's a little bit more difficult to move. Going down on the balance sheet, I just want to go to the fixed assets. The land originally cost $717,000. The building cost $3.2 million. We have these lines: SHIP, SHIP, and SHEEP. And then we paid off 2.7. So right now, that building, 45 units, our mortgage is $1.5 million. You know, that's the price of an expensive house right now. And, you know, we have about 5 years left on our mortgage. Flipping to the next page, page 10, as a bottom line kind of person, equity, we have $38,000 in the replacement reserve fund, but in our retained earnings, we've earned $194,000. Now we have that available to use for capital repairs, but I mean, part of the message, it's two different pockets, so to speak. You're allowed to kind of intertwine them, but operationally, we're doing well. Just capital-wise, we're weak. Any questions on the balance sheet?
On that point, Trevor, is there any sake or is there even an ability to transfer some of that money from the operating balance over to the capital reserve? Or does it matter?
We could do that. I think in the last year, when the pandemic first took over, I think we're all very concerned what might happen to the stock market. I think it would probably behoove us. It might make the recommendation from the board to move $50,000 right now, the board into the short-term and long-term bonds. And I think the short-term bond, the long-term bonds are doing quite well. And then we also have the money market. That's higher risk, but you know, we might want to move $50,000, make that motion now to put it in there just to hold it, you know, to earn some better interest.
Bob?
I have an issue if we're going to put it into something with high risk. I'd rather see it in something safe than putting it into something high risk. If we're going to put money in the capital, I don't have an issue. Like we do it every year with some of our boards at the end of the year, move some of the additional operating cash that we have on hand into reserves. So I'll make the motion to move 50,000 into capital reserve.
Okay.
Is there a seconder for that? Board member Fegan. Okay. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? It's carried. Okay.
Thank you. Good question.
And any other questions? Board Member Anderson?
Sorry about that. Thanks. Trevor, I guess during the pandemic, it would be expected that we would see arrears from some of the tenants. And I'm glad to see that the arrears have been reduced. You talked about one of the individuals cashing in RSPs to bring their balance up to date. I guess my question is, are these individuals, I mean, they may have been able to scrape up a few pennies to pay the arrears. Are these individuals still in jeopardy of falling into more arrears? Do you have any level of confidence that once the arrears has been completed with these individuals that they're going to be back on track?
Yeah, that person's clearing their arrears down to zero. So it's
Okay.
always a good sign. It's not like she's just paying half of it, but he owes half of our arrears currently. I'm saying he'll clear half of our arrears by paying it off.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is that you feel comfortable with those who you've been able to collect the arrears from, that moving forward, that it won't be an issue. Because again, my point is, I mean, sometimes you're able to scrape some money, you're able to borrow some money for some friends to bring you up to date, but by the following month or so, you're back in the same trouble all over again. Do you have any indication of that is my question?
Yeah, not at all. And I do know Dufferin County have a housing retention that they actually added a bunch of extra money to in a positive way. And we've had at one of our other portfolios had a fair uptick of people taking that money. And we do advise anybody that's in arrears, we've added to our arrears letter now. And they've been really, really helpful with clearing up, especially the $800 arrears, you know, like just this, somebody's falling behind.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay. And anything else on the financial statements?
I was just going to turn to, oh, sorry, on the balance sheet.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. All right. Carry on then.
Page 11, in discussions earlier, I'll just do a high level overview of it. If you look at total revenues, there's two columns in the middle, year-to-date actual, year-to-date budget. The only thing that's out of whack is the solar income, the very last line. And that's because we had to remove the solar panels that ended last year. We expense that against the revenue because we sort of felt like it's unfair to show over 20 years we received, let's say, $200,000 of solar revenue. We wanted to make sure the expenses were sort of captured against that income. So we actually brought in about $9,000 and the expenses there were $8,800. Carrying on, total wages and benefits were almost to the dollar. Total materials and services. Electricity, I would want to point that out, that we have put in my board report, they've updated that. There's about $9,000 of Ontario electricity energy benefit for us. So our budget was $40,000 and up at $40,000. In 2015, we spent $59,000 on electricity. And the price of electricity was 9.7 kilowatts an hour at that point. We changed over the electric air makeup unit to gas. So our gas bill went up about $4,000. So we're down 15 on electricity and up. So we're at least making $10,000 to $15,000 a year in savings, you know, off of adding the new air makeup unit. It costs us about $90,000. So 5 years from now, that's repaid itself fully. And then if you look at the bottom line, the budget was, if you look at year to date, the budget was to make 49,000. We made 82. I did a brief annual information return summary today that reconciles everything. It's only draft, but I have about $40,000 to be repaid because our taxes are $22,000 lower than budget. But I would rather us hold the money and the county will get the money back. So that 82,000 probably drops to 42. But again, we're pretty successful at making profits. Certainly I'm not trying to make it off the tenants back because our rents are so affordable, but you know, we have to make some profit to help offset the negative reserves.
Okay. Any other questions? Board Member Bonato.
Quick question, Trevor. I noticed the accounting fees are $400 higher than what we budgeted for. Is there normally
when we made the budget the year before, we hadn't got Mr. Cole's final increase. He gave us a 3-year increase of $400 for just $400 for the next 3 years each year. So when we did the budget the year before, the budget was $4,500 and it's gone up to $4,900.
And this is the final year, Mr. Cole's.
I believe there's one more year after this one.
one more year. So next year, when we're budgeting for next year, we're gonna put the $400 in there.
Absolutely, absolutely easy to do.
Anything else for Trevor? Okay. Anything else on the finance side, or you're good? Okay. Can I get a motion then to receive the financial report? Board Member Hall, seconded by Board Member Buffett. All in favor? It's carried. Okay. Property management report.
Okay, just a hydro rebate update. We had contacted them. They gave us a rebate. It seems that they pushed the button to give us a rebate and everything. And I contacted them because I just it didn't make sense. And it appeared at the time that maybe they hadn't recalculated the new cost, which was reasonable. So it ended up being $9,700, consistent with the 30% discount we received from the $40,000. So it ended up last year being $9,700. I am confirming, I checked today that last month we got the Ontario Energy benefit. It's ongoing. So we get about $1,000 a month approximately. RGI versus market, we are right on target, which is good news. And then we attached the maintenance report since the last board report. That is 2 pages over. And that's really anything we paid other than our superintendents to repair. So you see a lot of pipe dreams. That's a company that does our pipe repairs. Got the new fridge and stove. Nothing too material on there except for there's $13,000 for the hot waters, the solar panels on the roof. The first bill was $9,000, and then there was some extra things. Just to let the board know, we actually kept the solar domestic hot water because when the guy came, the expert, to take it off, it was a lot more work to take it off. And the expert we were bringing in, he was adamant because we're electric heating, we were not only saving money, but he just improved some things. Like we were having leaks in the winter. It's because there was straight piping between like the 6 units that were on the roof. They just straight piped each other. He said they put in flex pipe. He said if things shift, you won't have any leaks. So we sort of made a quick knee-jerk reaction because he's saying we're saving, $5,000 a year, and it didn't make any sense to carry on with that pathway. So we just took it down and put it back up, and he was adamant that all our leaks should be fixed at this point. So.
Okay.
And that's all we have in that. General building repairs, some couple vacant units, and they're all filled at this point.
Good. Okay. Any questions on that? Board Member Wagner?
Hi, yes, thank you. So Trevor, I was, I guess, a tenant reached out to me with some concerns regarding their unit. So just wondering, if a tenant lives, I know we do renovations and things like that when someone leaves, right?
Yes.
But if we have someone who's there for multiple years, for example, and things are starting to sort of show some age,
Yeah.
how do they potentially apply for or even get some renovations done, right? For example, let's just say it was carpet, right?
Yeah.
Carpet a lifespan, right? So
Yeah.
no matter how many times you steam clean it, eventually it's going to be bad and need replacing. So, I love that we refresh the units for new people coming in, but what about the people who are, hopefully paying their rent on time and they're not in arrears, and now they're starting to see, some wear and tear on their units? How do they go about getting some help to renovate them?
They would contact Donna basically, and Donna's here with me. It is very tough, because doing empty units are much easier than full units, obviously.
Yes.
We do that on occasion. We always would provide paint. Like 5 years later, if somebody wants to paint, we provide the paint for them, so there's no cost. Carpet is, we are starting to go to more vinyl flooring on most places because it holds so much longer. Do you have any feedback there, Donna?
If they contacted us to ask, I would definitely look at the unit if possible. It has been a difficult year. It's been a difficult year with contractors coming in, but I would look at the timeline. They've been there. Was it brand new when they moved in? Is it wear and tear that's justified because of length of time? Also, the contractors will not move belongings, so we would have to cover those costs as well. And the tenant has to play a big part in that moving and storing of say items in china cabinets and in that. But it definitely is something that we will look at as long as the tenant comes, brings it to our attention.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Just to that point, is there a number that they should call?
Donna?
Yes, they can call our office, and my extension, so our office number obviously is 705-722-3700. My extension is 225, and I welcome those calls. I will even come and inspect the unit.
You got that, Board Member Wagner? Okay, perfect, great. All right, any other questions? Okay, can I get a motion then to receive the property management report? Board Member Hall, second Board Member Fegan. Any discussion on that? All in favor? It's carried. All right, any new business? No, okay. Date of the next meeting.
If okay, we could wait until the AGM, which is scheduled for May.
Okay, works for me. Jennifer, what dates do we have in May?
May 10th or 31st?
Let's take the 31st because auditors are always going crazy in April and May, and longer's better for them.
Sounds good.
Excellent. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Donato, seconded by Wagner. All in favor? That's carried. All right, thank you guys.
See you soon.
Be well, we'll see you back in May.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, so flipping over, we'll call the regular council meeting to order. And we will start with the playing of the national anthem. So if you can, please stand. Great, thank you, everyone. This time, we'd also like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Chippewa, and the people of Three Fires Confederacy. At this time, I would ask if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest among council members. Don't see any, okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from February 8th and 22nd council meetings. Councillor Bernardo, seconded by Councillor Hall. Any discussion on those minutes, either set? Councillor Bernardo?
Not a discussion, but a quick update. I know that we had a question regarding the fire college on one of the sets of meetings. The fire chief informed me today that he had a discussion or call from the fire marshal and had a discussion with him, and has, since his email, has learned that the education will actually be at the fire hall itself, and there is no cost to any of the firefighters that way other than the regular $65 they would have had to pay to go to the fire college, but their expenses will be dramatically reduced because of that. So that is good news, and I just wanted to make sure council was updated along with any firefighters that might be out there listening.
Good stuff. Yeah, I know Councillor Wagner had raised that 1 or 2 meetings ago, so that's good. Thanks for that update. Anything else coming out of those 2 sets of minutes? No? Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? That's approved. All right. Public question period. Were there any questions submitted?
No, sir, no questions this evening.
All right, so we have 2 proclamations this evening. The first is for International Women's Week, which runs from today until March 12th. And the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas International Women's Day is celebrated globally on March 8th, a request is made to proclaim the week of March 8th to 12th with the aim of taking the time to reflect upon the contributions women have made and continue to make their communities and countries better places in which to live, work, and grow. And whereas International Women's Day and Week is a time to uphold women's achievements, recognize challenges, focus greater attention on women's rights and gender equality, encourage and mobilize all people to do their part to bring about positive change. And whereas International Women's Day and Week is a time to envision a world where each woman and girl can exercise her choices, such as participating in politics, getting an education, having an income, and living in societies free from violence and discrimination. Therefore, I, Wade Mills, Mayor of the Town of Shelburne, do hereby proclaim the week of March 8th to 12th, 2021 to be International Women's Week. And the second proclamation is for Essential Workers' Day of Appreciation, which is March 17th. So it's a little ways off, but we don't have another regular council meeting before that. I do want to give due credit to Councillor Wagner, who last year brought a motion to establish this Day of Appreciation on an annual basis within the Town of Shelburne. So the official proclamation is essential workers risk their health and safety daily in order to keep us safe. While many were asked to stay at home and practice social distancing, others continued to work and provide essential services to the community. It's important that we honor and pay tribute to these incredibly brave and dedicated essential workers for keeping our community functioning during these unprecedented times. Essential workers are heroes and are providing exceptional service to our citizens during the COVID-19 pandemic. They often make significant personal sacrifices to serve us. We owe a profound debt of gratitude to every single essential worker who continues to ensure our community keeps moving and residents have the food and supplies they need every day. In order to reflect upon the contribution of essential workers and to give residents the opportunity to recognize and discuss the importance of essential workers, the Town of Shelburne has proclaimed March 17th as Essential Workers' Day of Appreciation. So on the 17th, in addition to wishing happy St. Patrick's Day to your friends and neighbors, please do try to make a point to thank an essential worker when you see them in town. Okay, so on to delegations. We have one delegation this evening from Kim Jasper's Fair regarding water and sewer charges at the 250 Robert Street condo building. Good evening.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Kim Jasper Spare. I'm the property manager for the condominium located at 250 Robert Street. Condominium was built in '94, has one water meter, which was common in those days. I believe that was before water meters were introduced in Shelburne. And there are 39 units in the building, but for some reason, the condominium is being charged for 40 units. And the reason given by staff is that we have a party room. The party room has a sink. It does not have washroom facilities, does not meet the definition of a unit under your bylaw. Emailing and letters to staff basically tells us that we have to wait until the next water and sewage bylaw comes up in 5 years to address that. The other issue we have is that each unit in Shelburne is entitled to 220 cubic meters of water and sewage every 2 months. And you would think that with 39 units, that we would be entitled to 39 times 220 cubic meters, but no, because staff says because we have one water meter for the roughly 50 people that live in that building, they're only entitled to 220 cubic meters of water and sewer at the lower rate. Now this seems quite inequitable for those people that live there, and is costing, according to our calculations, in between the two, about $1,100 or $1,200 a year for the building. And again, staff says, well, that's the way the bylaw is written, and we have to wait till for another 5 years or 4 years until the next bylaw is passed. When we calculate what we pay or what per unit is paid by the condominium, we pay significantly more than a single family house, comparing to 3 or 4 households that we talk to. The other thing is the town is saving money by not having to read 39 different meters. They only read one. They didn't have to pay to install 39 meters. And instead of giving, those 50 seniors that live in that building a break, town of Shelburne's overcharging them. So we'd like to see if council would come up with a way to address this. We manage a number of multi-resident buildings in Orangeville, Grand Valley, and in all of those situations, the municipality makes adjustments for the number of units, not for the number of water meters. And that's basically it in a nutshell. You probably received my my correspondence. Mine explained it a little bit better than I did there, but if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Great. Are there any questions for Mr. Jasper Spare? So I think the plan is, and I mean, thank you for certainly bringing this to our attention. I mean, what I would like to see is our staff to bring back a report so that council sort of has some more information at our fingertips before we make a decision. I think sooner rather than later would be preferable, of course, for you guys.
Well, I guess we've been being overcharged since 2013 when water meters have been introduced. So it's just come to light. I think part of the reason is that our water usage is up, partly because of COVID, because people aren't going anywhere. So, they don't go to restaurants, they don't go to visit family. And when we started looking at our water bill, this came to light. I guess really it should have been the condo's responsibility back in 2013 to identify some of these problems, but now they've got it on our plate.
Fair enough. So I guess my question would be for staff, how quickly do we think we could get a report back in front of council to sort of detail some information and what options we can consider? Carrie?
Thank you, and through the mayor. Staff have been looking into and researching the past history on this building and how it came to be. Part of our problem is that none of the existing staff are still working for the town that implemented all of these water meters. And current staff felt that to deal with this one request in isolation is not fair and equitable to some other properties that may find themselves in a similar situation. So we would like to request more time to just do a comprehensive review of all the town buildings that share one meter, have common rooms and such, and bring a report back to council, which may include an amendment to our bylaw. So I think the March 22nd meeting is quite full. Jennifer, I believe, can contest to that. So I was hoping maybe for the first meeting in April, if there's room on that agenda. I'm not sure.
I think that one's pretty packed too.
That's full too, okay.
But I mean, yeah, if we can get something back, I think within, the month of April, I think that's reasonable. I mean, as you say, Kim, that this has been going on for, some period of time. So,
Yep.
I mean, if it takes another month for us to sort of get the information we need to make a proper decision, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And we don't expect it to be solved overnight. And as Ms. Holmes has said, I'm sure there's other buildings with a similar problem. So
yeah,
better get it right the first time. Or the second.
Yeah, I mean, that second time perhaps. Yeah, that would be my preference rather than deal with this in sort of a piecemeal fashion. I mean, if there are more properties that are kind of, caught up in the same situation, let's bring it all to light and deal with it all at once. So, thoughts from the rest of the group? Does anybody else have any questions for Kim or for Carrie at this point? No, seeing none. Okay, can I get a motion then to receive the information as presented and to direct staff to bring back a report? Councillor Buffett, seconded by Councillor Fegan.
Sorry, Mayor Mills, I just have a quick question. I apologize, just before you finalize it.
Yep.
Carrie, I'm not sure if you have turned your mind to how many more of these properties that may exist that are similar to the one that Mr. Ashley is speaking of. And I guess my question is, what impact, if any, on the water revenues that we collect will this have? And I guess that will be part of the report, I guess that will be coming forward, but do you have any sort of preliminary thoughts on that?
I don't have any financial numbers in front of me, no. There are more than one buildings in town that have similar situations, and it does affect a lot of the older buildings in town where it wasn't possible to install separate meters for each unit. So we just want to make sure that we are consistent across the board with how we are billing all of these properties, and before we make a recommendation of which way it should be reflected.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion on that? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, well, so Kim, I guess tune in at our second April meeting, and we'll have a further discussion on this. But thanks again for bringing that to our attention.
Okay, thank you for your time.
All right, have a good night.
Have a good night.
Okay, so on to council inquiries. I have a couple. Number one, at our last meeting, it was raised that we're having sort of a less than expected, I guess, response to applications for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. But it seems that some of those concerns were maybe for naught. So, Madam Clerk, do you maybe just want to give an update on where we ended up with that?
Yes, just a quick update for council. After Deputy Mayor Anderson had questioned that at our February 22nd meeting, the next day afterwards, staff had determined that there was a bit of an issue with our website and applications were being submitted, just not being forwarded on to staff. So staff were able to download those applications that had been received as of February 22nd, which were 19 at the time. Council then, we requested council extend the submission timeline to Friday, March 5th. And we received an additional 6 applications after that. So we have 25 in total to be reviewed by council. It is our hope that on March 15th, we can give a short outline to council as to the interview process and selection process at that point.
Okay. So we'll add that to the agenda for next Monday's special meeting?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And the second item that was on my list, because we have our planner online tonight, I was just looking for an update on the Flato Developments seniors and commercial development proposal. I think we had discussed this, well, we've discussed it a few times, but in September, I believe council passed a resolution more or less asking staff to receive that application and to report back with some progress. So Steve, where are things at in that respect?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we have had pre-application meetings with Flato and their team, both with the county and town and agency staff. There have been additional follow-up meetings with the MTO as well. There's a lot of ground to cover in terms of some of the technical specifics of what's required for a development application, infrastructure and transportation included, as well as the land use aspects and getting the land included in the urban boundary. So correspondence has been ongoing with Flato and their team. One of the more time-consuming aspects of this kind of pre-application process, or in making sure Flato has all the information they need to prepare an application, is just making sure they have all of the details on the servicing downstream of the site, which is basically the entire north half of the town. As we know, we have to figure out a way and what the options are for getting sanitary wastewater from on the far west side of town all the way to the treatment plant, and that's a big undertaking, a bit of a challenging endeavor. And I know Jim has been working hard with SBA and town staff to get all that old servicing information pulled out of the file drawers and scanned into digital formats and provided to Flato's engineering team to try and figure out the condition, age, size, and so forth of all the pipes downstream and what may need to be upsized. So yeah, work is ongoing. We do anticipate having a bit of an update report for council on the March 22nd agenda, as well as the servicing update.
Okay, so for the March 22nd meeting, we'll have a planning update and a servicing update? Correct. Okay. Yeah, because I think the other piece that we've discussed a few times is allocation. And I know Burnett and Associates has been working on that. So so if we can get sort of a wholesome update on both fronts on the 22nd, that would be good. Okay. Okay. All right. That was it on my list. Any Councillor Bernardo?
I know that over the weekend, one of the police officers had to contact the fire chief for utilizing a washroom facility. And I'm wondering if there's any way we can provide our police with the ability to utilize washrooms within the town hall, rather than forcing them to go all the way out to Primrose. Or, I mean, the reality is, and you can't go into a lot of buildings these days and utilize washrooms and restaurants and whatnot as with COVID. So I'm just wondering if it's possible to provide washrooms for them at town hall, whether we can provide them with keys or whatever so that they can utilize it and be able to use a washroom within our town.
See that our CAO is unmuted herself.
Through the mayor, I'll certainly follow up with the detachment commander. All the relationship issues flow through him with respect to services to discuss that and what can be put in place.
The the deputy mayor and I can bring that up at the first police service board meeting that we have too. So deputy mayor, was that what you were going to say, or do you have another comment? Okay.
This is regarding one of our seems like newest stores in town. A number of people have approached me about this marijuana store. I don't know what else to call it, because that's what it is, right? And so people are wondering, you know, are there additional steps that have to be taken before this place is open? The sign is up, and people are wondering, is it, you know, is this something that's already been cleared by council in the sense of last remaining steps, etc. And so I just wanted to make sure, for those who may be tuning in, or certainly I can report back to those who have inquired as to what additional steps have to be taken. I think maybe some of this caught some people by surprise, and they were wondering whether council was involved or whether council had approved. And obviously, you know, by and large, we did approve about a year or so ago. But what are the remaining steps? And maybe Jennifer or Steve or whoever else could chime in as to, before that place is actually allowed to open, what has to happen?
Jennifer.
Thank you, and through your worship, would just like to remind council that in 2018 you had opted in to be able to have retail cannabis facilities in town, and so that then, once council had opted into that and received funding, that then what the current applicants have to go through is the current business licensing application process. And before they receive a business license, their federal, provincial, and AGCO requirements are to be submitted in conjunction with their business license application. So in the absence of having their provincial and federal approvals, they will not be able to obtain a business license.
Okay. Okay. All right.
My understanding is that some of those licensing requirements through the other agencies is quite a stringent process. So I think there are, you know, quite a few hurdles that any potential operator has to clear before it kind of gets to our municipal approval phase. But sorry, Jennifer. Sorry,
one more thing. The AGCO does require them to on site provide public notice, and so there are. It's just a little 8.5 by 11 in the window, indicating that a proposed cannabis retail facility may be on site. They are required to provide that public notice.
Okay, yeah, and just a follow up to that very quickly. And I'm not sure if this is. Anyways, I read something recently. I just want to make sure that I'm correct on this. I thought through AMO, I saw that the province had released or is about to release some funding or additional funding for enforcement when it comes to marijuana. Is that something that either Jennifer or Denise could speak to? Am I correct on that?
That funding was provided by the province previously. We received $10,000, and it was to be an ongoing funding mechanism. But when COVID hit, I don't believe they're going to follow through with that.
I swear I saw something recent though coming out, some correspondence from them indicating that. Sorry, Denise, go ahead.
I was just going to say the funding that we had originally budgeted for in 2020, we over budgeted for that cannabis allotment, that it was actually a one-time, and then it was going to be additional upon the government meeting threshold targets for revenues, which are significantly not being realized for the fact that the implementation of the cannabis stores has been somewhat stalled. We can certainly look into any additional funding that's related to policing or formal security or measures that are under the ministry of our MPP, and let council know and follow up with you.
Yeah, and I think that's important because, you know, at the same time or around the same time the council made the decision to opt in to allow cannabis retail, we did also pass that bylaw that prohibited the use of cannabis in public spaces. So I mean, if there is some additional funding out there that could help with bylaw enforcement, you know, then certainly we should be trying to avail ourselves of that. So, okay, perfect. Any other inquiries before we move on? Councillor Wagner?
Hi, thank you very much. It's not, I guess I have two, but very short ones. The first one is more or less just a sort of a to notify the public that's watching of an initiative in town that's taking place. Unfortunately, they couldn't make the delegation for tonight, so I just wanted to mention it. It began on March the 6th here in Shelburne, and it's called Share Your Silver Lining. So Claire Knight and Jen Price want to spread positivity. So they are asking people to share their silver lining by sharing a positive experience they had during 2020. Each week, a local business will host a prize for those that have shared. And for more details, you can just visit Share Your Silver Lining on Facebook. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there for anyone who's watching. You know, we've all seen a massive increase in negativity lately, and, you know, mental health is at an all-time high right now for concerns. And this is just a little something to help with hopefully providing some positivity in the town. My second question is for Jim, if he's on here. I had a community member reach out regarding large amounts of pet feces on certain walkways and thoroughways through the town. Obviously, we always see an increase of this in the spring when the snow melts. But the main question was, are the garbage cans out, or will they be out soon? Her concern was that maybe if there was more garbage cans available, there'd be less poop on the ground.
Through your worship, some of the cans have been removed just due to winter. So we do urge people to use plastic bags or pick up after themselves when they are out. Councillor Regner is correct. It's always worse in the spring. And I know public works staff have been busy the last few weeks trying to keep up with snow and get the roadways opened up again, and then turning over in some situations, depending on the day, into flooding as well. But things do look good this week where they can start focusing on normal routine. So I will mention that to them in the morning, if they could check that out, and then we'll see if we can get the containers in a reasonable spot where they're not going to interfere with snow removal still to go on this winter, because we're a nice idea, but we're still going to get more yet. So
yeah. Okay, perfect. So I can just sort of mention to her that the containers will be going out shortly, as soon as they don't interfere with snow removal.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councillor Fegan.
Just a quick question, actually. I know that we've talked many times in the past about decreasing the speed limits around town. And as I recall, the last mention of it, we were waiting on MTO. So I'm assuming that it's still on the MTO to get back to us on that. If I can get confirmation from Jennifer or from Denise on that. And if it still is with the MTO, is there anything that we can do to maybe push this along down the field a little further?
Denise?
Through you, yes, Councillor Fegan, that's correct. We're still in discussions with MTO to get the required approvals to reduce the speed limit. What has to be looked at as well is the connecting link, because we don't control the authority over that component of having it 40. Their requirements are that this lowest speed can be 50. I'll certainly resurrect that conversation and where we're going to be in getting that done. We certainly can make decisions regarding all roads within the control of the town of Shelburne, and certainly ask the county if they would be supportive of any roads that may be their jurisdiction. But apologies, it's been stalled during COVID. The good news is that we have less traffic that are speeding based on what we understand from the ticketing. So that might be a positive, that people have slowed down, knowing that in some cases there's still speed issues within the community as well. So leave it with me and I'll follow up.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, anybody else? No, okay. All right, so the first item on the regular agenda is report from the town planner regarding a request for an extension of draft approval and a draft approval the plan of condominium for 600 Main Street. So Steve, do you want to lead us through that report?
Yeah, I can just briefly recap the information in my report, and you'll see attached to my report is a letter from the applicant's planner, just outlining the progress of the design submissions and their intent to have a further engineering and landscape design submission addressing comments early this month. So we are expecting that imminently. So this has both draft plan approval for a plan of subdivision and a plan of condominium. This is for the land on the north side of Main Street, just east of the Besley Drain. The approval includes 58 townhouse units on a private common element condominium road. Centerville Homes is presently marketing the site and has identified some plans and graphics on their website that are used as part of their marketing program. We did receive the detailed engineering submissions in the fall of last year. Comments were delivered back to the applicant on that first set of drawings for the detailed design in December. And we're anticipating, as I say, a resubmission very shortly. Just going back in the chronology of this one, I was reviewing kind of the progress and where things stalled a little bit in the past. So the approvals that were granted in 2018 obviously had a 3-year timeline to them. The draft approvals were given in mid-March of 2018. The last day for appeal of those was April 2nd, 2018. So that's what drives the lapsing date 3 years later. And here we are in 2021. If not extended, these draft approvals would lapse on April 2nd, 2021. From April to May of 2018, there were a number of meetings with interested builders. Basically, the original owners were obtaining draft plan approvals with the intent to then engage builders to design and build the actual homes in the development. So there have been a series of meetings through 2018 with people who were potentially interested in building. That, though, did not materialize into actual detailed design submissions and a builder pursuing marketing. And we actually had about a year and a month of no activity on the file from May 2018 to June of 2019. Then in June and July of 2019, there was a sales trailer placed on the site. It had to be removed. There was a bylaw compliance issue. It wasn't with the current owner, though. We believe from the town's records, the ownership changed in November of 2019. And then since then, there has been activity. So this time last year, zoning approval was brought forward for a sales center. Ultimately, the owner did not proceed to build the sales center because of the impacts of COVID. In September 2020, as I say, we did receive that first detailed engineering design submission. And ever since really about March of last year, communications with the owner have been ongoing, that they're clearly proceeding to pursue final approval and clearance of conditions so they can register the subdivision and build the roads, services, and ultimately build the homes. So we considered all of those things in making our recommendation. It is recognized that servicing allocation is tied to this development, and servicing goes with the development approval. So by renewing the draft plan approval for another year, that means that 58 units of servicing capacity will continue to be allocated to this development. And that is one reason why we are recommending just a 1-year extension, just to make sure that this does proceed to final approval and that servicing isn't tied up for an extended length of time. We are fairly sure, though, that with the current market conditions and the progress that has been made, that the developer, the owner, Centerville Homes, is going to proceed and get this final approval in place. So with that, I'd invite any questions that you may have for me, and I'd be happy to try and answer them for you. Thank you.
All right, any questions for Steve? Councilor Bernardo?
I know when we originally gave the approvals in 2018 to the original owner, there were a lot of promises made to council at that time regarding the type of housing that, town housing that was going in there. Because we had mentioned for accessibility and seniors, and we were made quite a few promises. With this current owner, are we ever going to see what type of housing they're going to be bringing in there, and is he ever coming to council?
I did specifically inquire with the current owner about that, and specifically asked about one-story or bungalow, accessible or seniors-oriented type townhomes. You can see the proposed townhome designs on the website, the marketing material. The builder did confirm that they do not intend to build that style, that they are looking at two-story units, predominantly because of the floor area size and who they want to market to. We don't have any zoning or conditions in place right now that would restrict or could restrict building two-story homes. So that is what we anticipated, and Centerville Homes has been forthcoming about that. They do intend to build primarily the two-story type of dwelling.
Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Yeah, just very quickly, Steve, as you speak about the current owner's motivation to sort of move forward to the finish line, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I tried to inquire myself. I've been hearing, but I just wanted to hear from you if you know that the proposed townhouses, and they look great, even though they don't fit the needs that Councilor Bonato spoke of, and as we spoke of as council. But are they sold out? Have they already, because it seems like they've already proceeded with sales, and what I've been hearing is that they've been sold out. Is that correct?
I don't have an update on the number of units that have been sold so far. I know they have been for sale for a little while now, and the only thing they require in terms of municipal approvals in order to offer units for sale is the draft approvals that they currently have. So all of those would be, very conditional sales at this point, obviously with the understanding that, the owner still needs to get final approval in order to actually construct the units. So I'm not aware of how many units they have sold to date, but I did hear that as well earlier today, and have not verified it with the owner, but I will, following this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else for Steve? Okay, so the draft motion that we have reads, be it resolved, the report P 2021-06 be received for information, and the council approves a request for extension of the conditions of draft plan approval by Innovative Planning Solutions for the draft plan of subdivision for a period of 1 year. And the council approves a request for extension of the conditions of draft plan approval by Innovative Planning Solutions on behalf of Centerville Shelburne Inc. for draft plan of condominium for a period of 1 year. I get a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Buffett, seconded by Councillor Hull. Any further discussion on that one? All in favor? Okay. All right, so next we have the development charge bylaw for council's consideration. That this is in relation to the public meeting, statutory public meeting that we had on February 22nd. Steve, do you want to provide any additional comments to this as follow-up?
Certainly. So there have been only very minor revisions to the bylaw as a result of further review. Basically, we just went through it and made sure all of the language was consistent with the other recently passed development charges bylaws in terms of the rules of how the bylaw is applied and interpreted. And we did receive a submission, I think it was maybe referenced at the public meeting, from Bousfields on behalf of Flato Developments with some inquiry about the development forecast, and there is a response provided by the development charge consultants, Hempson, in reply to that. And this afternoon, we did just also receive a written submission from Fieldgate with some questions about the proposed bylaw. So a response will be provided to Fieldgate as well.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Sorry, guys, I didn't want to drag this out. I want to go watch The Bachelor. Anyways, moving along. Steve, as you talk about Fieldgate, I was just, it came to my mind about that issue we were dealing with respect to the driveway and the access point to where the subdivision is, to where I think they wanted to gain access to the parking area where Tim Hortons is. You remember what I'm talking about? I was just wondering, where are we with respect to that? It's been quite a while since we had that issue discussed or raised.
Yeah, we've provided comments on that back to Fieldgate. And you're right, that was a while ago, back in September when we discussed that at council. So just to recap that, the site interconnection with the existing Wrigglesworth Plaza where the Tim Hortons is was a recommendation of the 2012 Shelburne East Area Transportation Study. We put that into our comments to Fieldgate to say that was a recommendation. You know, your design of your plaza should accommodate that. They have come back with a revised submission. It does not accommodate an interconnection. They have submitted a draft of a traffic impact study that provides some analysis of that and some of the impacts if an interconnection was provided, and as well as assessment of the existing Tim Hortons driveway and how it's performing and expected to perform into the future. Basically, the proposal at this time is to keep that driveway open as a full move access on 124 and not connect the sites internally, though we have yet to receive the final kind of traffic impact study to justify that, and that will be subject to further review by the town's engineers. So that's in process, and we will have kind of some recommendations around that as we bring forward the site plan to the next step.
So in terms of the development charges bylaw in front of us, Steve, just to be clear and confirm, this only relates to parks and recreation services and library services?
That's correct, yep.
So are there any further questions on that draft bylaw for Steve? Okay. If not, then the motion reads, be it resolved that leave be given for the reading and enacting of bylaw number 11-2021 being a bylaw to establish development charges for the town of Shelburne. Get a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Donato, seconded by Councillor Wegner. All in favor? It's carried. Okay. That's it, Steve?
That's it for me. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night. All right, are there any notices of motion for this evening? Councillor Wegner?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so it's a little bit of a lengthy motion, I guess. It's support for the 988 crisis line put forth by Kyle Seaback. So here it is. Whereas the federal government has passed a motion to adopt 988, a national 3-digit suicide and crisis hotline. And whereas the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has increased the demand for suicide prevention services by 200%, and whereas existing suicide prevention hotlines require the user to remember a 10-digit number and go through directories or be placed on hold. And whereas in 2022, the United States will have in place a national 988 crisis hotline. And whereas the town of Shelburne recognizes that it is a significant and important initiative to ensure critical barriers are removed to those in a crisis and seeking help. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Shelburne endorses this 988 crisis line initiative, and that staff be directed to send a letter indicating such support to local MPP, Federal Minister of Health, the CRTC, and local area municipalities to indicate our support.
Okay. So ordinarily that would go on the agenda for the next meeting. Given the current climate and everything that we're dealing with, I personally would like to sort of expedite that. Jennifer, remind me, with unanimous consent, we can do that?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any objection to considering this notice of motion tonight? No? Okay. I'd be happy to second that for Councillor Wagner.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much for raising that. Are there any other notices of motion? No? Okay. So on to communications, 13 items on the list. Number 3 has a request contained that requires some action from us. So we'll deal with that one first and then ask if there's anything else that anybody would like to deal with. So that the minutes from the BIA meeting included a recommendation which is asking for council's approval of the appointment of Sharon Grant as a member of the BIA, as well as asking for our authorization to submit an application for funding for a Central Counties program for the BIA. So can I get a mover and seconder for that? Councillor Buffett. Second by Councillor Wagner. Any discussion on that? All in favor? It's carried. So congratulations to Sharon Grant. Any other items from the list of communication? Councillor Buffett, did you want to speak to number 4 at all? Just the letter from Rotary Club regarding Heritage Music Fest?
Okay, well, I don't have a great deal of details, just the fact that they were looking at doing an event at Fiddle Park outdoor. Wondering if they could use the funds that were allocated for the Heritage Music Festival, since we're not going to be having that this year, but you know, obviously next year that should be the case, and just wanting to know if that could be possible as far as council keeping that allocation for that purpose.
Jennifer?
We do have a delegation at our next council meeting from a Rotary representative to come and discuss that further with council for the March 22nd meeting.
All right, good stuff. Okay, anything else from communications list? No. Okay. Can I get a motion to receive those items then as listed? Councillor Fegan, seconded by Councillor Hall. All in favor? Carried. No closed session. Can I get a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Councillor Hall, seconded by Councillor Bonato. All in favor? Carried. Done in time to let the deputy mayor watch The Bachelor. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Councillor Bonato, seconded by Councillor Hall. All in favor? That's carried. All right, thank you all. And reminder of the special meeting next Monday night at 6:30. Take care.